Good evening and welcome to Kitchen Conversations. I'm so glad that you're here. My name is Gino. I'm the musical director here at Universal Spirit Center, and we are celebrating Black Lives Matter. We are engaged. We are engaging you. You can chat with us through YouTube and our Facebook page. YouTube, Universal Spirit Center SD for San Diego, and on our Universal Spirit Center page on Facebook. You can also send a message on our webpage at universalspiritcenter.org via Messenger. So I am so glad that you're here with us. And you can just come on and be with the family, because the family always gathers in the kitchen. So as we begin this evening to open up our hearts and our minds to a new possibility, to some radical thinking, this day I awoke with a passion in my heart, a feeling of longing, a thirst so strong. I want to be better, an opening for God to make me stronger. My prayer today is for courage to be what the Holy Spirit intends for me. I want to be better, an opening for God to make me stronger. Make me patient when I worry. Make me calm when there is strife. Make me loving when my heart is hard. Make me forgiving when I would be right. Make me forgiving. My prayer today is for courage to be what the Holy Spirit intends for me. I want to be better, an opening for God to make me stronger. Stronger to reveal more peace. I must be patient to reveal more love. I must be humble to reveal more power. Make me stronger to more peace, more love, more joy, more joy. I want to be better, an opening for God. This is my prayer today. Oh, God. And it is in this breath right here and now, as we celebrate God, knowing that God is all that there is, that we send this blessing out to the world, that we open our hearts wider and our awareness even that much more, to live in a consciousness that's beyond what we know right now. This new conversation, this new awareness, this new consciousness that is unfolding right here and right now. So touch your hand on your heart. For we are embarking on a journey that we cannot turn back. We've come too far. We will not settle, not any longer. So we know that as we stand in this place of awakening, that Black lives matter, that people of color matter in this world would not be the same without us. And we understand that it is us on the battlefield, not us and them, but a united human divine essence, a oneness of being. So this blessing, we breathe it out into the world. As the light goes in, love comes out through our hearts. And so just take this moment and feel the love exuding out. For in love, there is divine answer. In love, there is solution. In love, there is divine connection. So we breathe and know this. Because we know that none of us are free if one of us is in chains. Well, you better listen, my sisters and brothers, 'cause if you do, you will hear a voice still calling across the years. And they're calling across the ocean, and they're calling across the land, and they will till we all come to understand that none of us are free. None of us are free. None of us are free. One of us in chains. None of us are free. Well, some of us can't see the light. We're still in the dark. If you don't say it's wrong, that says it's right. We've got to give to each other, show each other that we care. Let's send the message, send it out loud and clear, that none of us are free. None of us are free. None of us are free. One of us in chain. None of us are free. None of us are free. Not one of us are free. None of us are free. If one of us is in chains, none of us bring our guest in. There's everybody. Welcome. Terry, say hello.
Hello, everybody.
Bonnie, say hello.
Hello, everyone.
And Alicia, say hello.
Hey, everyone.
I have some family with me tonight. Bonnie and Alicia, we are cousins, and Terry just came right on in to the family. So we having a family party in the kitchen. Fantastic. I want to thank you all for being here. And so let's jump in. Let's get on in there. I'm going to throw this out. We all have different experiences of what it's like being black in America. Alicia, I'm going to put it to you. You a young little whippersnapper doing some beautiful things in Atlanta. What is your experience?
Well, I feel like right now I'm probably feeling the brunt of being Black in America through healthcare. I have psoriasis, which is a immune disease, and it causes you to break out in rashes all over your body. And I would say that I'm a part of like a lot of research and a lot of advocacy efforts. And a lot of times when I go to these meetings or conferences, I'm oftentimes the only Black face in the room.
Oh,
Um, so that's always very interesting to me. Even with diseases that they say this disease affects mostly African Americans, and then you look at their panels and it's all white people. Um, I also can kind of see the issues in research and just not having the Black voice present when it comes to what we need and treatments and medicine. So that is very focused, my issues, but I just know that that is the thing presently that I've seen as an issue with me and being Black in the spaces that I'm in when it comes to health and chronic illness.
that's beautifully said because in the pandemic, black people, people of color, are the hardest hit once again. Bonnie, what is your experience as a black man?
Well, James Baldwin said, to be black in America is to be in a constant state of rage. And I don't feel a rage all the time, but there are plenty of times that there is that rage, but that rage has to be contained. Um, Recently, I was watching, of course, when the NBA decided to walk out after the shooting in Kenosha, Wisconsin. And one of the players was a real uh, heartfelt, well, actually, it was Doc Rivers, who
Ah, yeah.
said that he can't understand, that for all the stuff that black people are to this country, that black people are not loved back in the country. So that's when you feel the rage. Uh, but you also understand that black culture drives the world in a lot of ways. And so you're excited and happy to see that, but there is a rage about the inequities for people of color.
Beautiful. I'm a huge sports fan, so I was watching it live
Yeah.
when it happened, and I was in such appreciation and for our young black men to take that stance. Terry, what about you? Wait a minute, I think you might be on mute.
Oh, I'm sorry.
There
Is
we
that
go.
better?
Yes.
My neighbor was loud. Sorry.
Pots in the can, in the kitchen.
Pots in the kitchen. That answer changes
depending on the day. You know, the Journal of Social Science just published a study that basically said that repeated police killings have harmed the mental health of the Black community. And I didn't realize the level of PTSD that I had normalized as a person of color until George Floyd, until Ahmaud Arbery, when it became unbearable to just roll my eyes and know that nothing was going to be done. It felt like my skin was blistering. It felt like I could cry anytime anybody asked me any questions. At the same time, I'm essential, so I have to work and care for people. And I've never in my life felt so full of that rage. In fact, I'll leave you with this, and this is something that I think about a lot. I ask myself if I'm on the edge, you know, and then I ask, can I be on the edge? Am I allowed to be on the edge? And then I have to ask myself, have I always been on the edge then? And then I ask myself, how do I get off of the ledge without losing the edge that is Terry? I don't want to become a victim or a martyr, but I can't address every single thing. And I don't know how to navigate that anymore.
I hear you loud and clear. Alicia and I were talking, and it was a joke, but not. And I just feel that I want to say it right now that all three of you beautiful Black people are so articulate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
I
told her
don't know
yesterday
if,
that at conferences, I
what, say
get
that
that all the
again?
time.
Say what?
I said, I told you yesterday when I'm at conferences, I get that all the time. And I'm just like, what were you expecting?
Right.
So,
I just heard it yesterday after our staff meeting. You're so well spoken. Thank
As,
you.
as if
and you
we're
know how
supposed to
I'm
be like, oh
responding,
my
I can read.
God, thank you.
What got me is even the Black folks were saying it. Terry, you're so well spoken.
Yeah.
Shut up. Don't say that in front of them.
I think one of the things that we've touched upon, the rage that we feel, each of us in our own different way, because I didn't realize how much rage I had within me. And when I saw Jacob, I saw the video, I literally fell to my knees and started crying. And discussing it with other people, and I'm not a crybaby, you know. Not saying that people that cry are, but it usually takes a lot. But I've noticed over these last few months, it's like a ravine that's just open. And so every time I see something, you would think with all of the publicity and the protesting that police officers would think second, but it doesn't appear to be that way at all. So where do you find, how do you deal with your rage? Bonnie?
Huh. How do I deal with the rage? We deal with it by working tirelessly to be a positive change in the world, and understand that's one of our roles, that's our responsibility to help change these conditions. And so, I mean, I think I look deeper in the issue being police shooting. The issue is the biasness and the racial inequities that this country was built upon. And I love America. You know, I'm an American. My family has earned the right to be here and to have this as our country. But I think the deal is that this is the challenging issue for the United States of America. Racism is the most challenging, and really addressing that. Um, so how I deal with it is by taking the circle that I'm involved with, the circle of people who come into my spirit, who come into my presence every day, and being a positive influence of like minded people, or helping to change some of the discussion for people who maybe don't understand. Uh, and to, like the people who said, he should have just did what the police told him to do and he wouldn't have gotten shot. You know, uh, all of those things. People understand, I think, sometimes the PTSD, and historical uh, uh, things that racism has caused in the African American community. And I think now people are able to see it because of video and other stuff. And it's something interesting. I was uh, uh, on a political blog here where I live in Michigan. I was reading the stuff, and there were some friends of mine who were white, who were very liberal, who were saying, well, maybe we shouldn't show that video because it's so traumatic to black people. And my thing was, no, you guys need to see that video. Black people been telling y'all forever that this kind of stuff happened. It's
Yes.
traumatic to you because you don't want to believe that people are that brutal or that racist or have that kind of a heart. So you need to see it.
Right.
So yes, show that video. So I don't know if I answered your question, but
Well,
I'm
I
off my
think I got a
soapbox.
little bit of the rage.
Yeah.
I feel you. I feel you. Because I was listening to a sports radio station, and this black guy called in and said, I'm a black man, and I teach my kids respect. And if you understand how to respect the law, then that won't happen to you. You have to respect the law. And I love what one of the sportscasters said. So Brianna laying in her bed sleep didn't have enough respect? Trayvon
Right.
Martin walking down the street with a hoodie on. I mean, he just started listening, and then he told me, "Get off my phone. You're part of the problem."
Right. Right.
And to that, I think we've been brainwashed as well. Because when you say things like that, to see a man get shot 7 times because his back has turned away from you and he's walking away, you're the professional. It's your job to know how to de escalate. But
Right.
before I go too off, Alicia, how do you deal with your rage?
Um, so as of late, I would say that I've been dealing with rage by sharing and expressing with my close friends how I've been feeling about everything. And we have a group chat. And just today, one of my friends said that she was feeling overwhelmed because of the Jacob Blake situation, and um, seeing the video. Like, I stopped watching videos as soon as I see, a header that says this is what's going on. I might read about it, but I have been overwhelmed with seeing that kind of stuff. I remember when the George Floyd situation happened, and I was like, I'm not watching that video. Like, I had avoided it, and I had CNN on, and I was taking a nap. And you know how sometimes you can hear what's going on in your sleep. And
Yes.
I wake up and I see the video, and I could not stop crying.
Yeah.
Um, so just really connecting with other Black people around me who can relate, and really just getting out how I feel about what's going on. And to Bonnie's point, like, you give back and you help your people, but we still need to do something. I don't know what it is we need to do or what they need to do about just this police brutality, or just oppression and racism as a whole, you know. we just have so much work to do. And even though we can help those around us and help our people, it's them that really needs to change. They have the biases and the stereotypes in their mind. So I just talk to people around me that I trust.
I hear you. I hear you. Terry?
I also depend quite heavily on my tribe. You know, I have a beautiful tribe of people who are supportive and loving and constantly validate my feelings, and we share our growth in this area. I also do like radical self-care. Sometimes I'll just take a nap all day, you know, and I won't respond to text messages and I don't care. Sometimes I'll just watch MSNBC and be like a left-wing lunatic and yell at the TV all day. And that feels good and it's cathartic. And sometimes I avoid the news and I Netflix and chill because I need that. My soul needs it. I try to remember the things that I learned to help center myself. Sometimes I feel further from the source because it feels that whenever a new incident occurs, I feel jarred. You know, I feel like I'm bobbing in water and I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. And I'm pulled exactly where I'm supposed to be pulled. And then these videos come, these murders come, and it's like a huge wave that just, you know, throws me off. And so I sometimes struggle to remember all of the things that I learned that are myself, like sort of centering kind of tools. But eventually I get there. I don't know how to fix the problem long term, though, because my concern is that when 99% of these cops that are killing people aren't being charged with murder or charged with any crimes in the last, 6 years?
Even more. There's more.
Or more.
Yeah.
You know?
I don't think they've ever
been charged.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So when they're not getting charged.
Charged. He killed a white woman, though. He was black and he killed a white woman.
Oh.
Right. Well, then there you go.
Yeah. That's exactly.
Right.
Yes.
And then that's just a cherry on top, because that's like insult to injury. So until those systemic issues get resolved, it's going to be waves, you know? And I don't know how to navigate that because I know I'm just waiting for the next one. And I'm trying not to anticipate that. But it's almost like self-care to protect yourself. And that's not healthy.
It's not. And, you know, I don't know if there's not one answer or one way. I believe you see what the NBA did. The NBA shut down, and then baseball followed, tennis followed, hockey, soccer. These other athletes, and you saw them with their plea of like, what is it going to take? So in this climate right now where there are those that are understanding, there's a real problem. Racism is a real problem. And as you said, Bonnie, I think it is one of our number one problems, because if anything can kill mankind, it's the way that we're going. Because there's no release right now. We are constantly on edge. I don't know the answers either, but to your white brothers and sisters, what would you say to them?
They have to work for systemic change. They have to use their whiteness to make laws change. They have to insist that it's not okay that black folks are 13% of the population, but almost 30% of the murders by cop. And they have to persevere and continue even after CNN is no longer following it, it has to become their purpose because we've known it.
Yes.
Like Bonnie said, nobody's listening to us.
Well, thank God for the pandemic. Finally, people see that this is a real thing. I remember a friend of mine called me and said, "Girl, they shooting us when we jog." I was like, "What? What are you talking about?" Ahmad, that was something that I couldn't even get my head around. That here was a man jogging, and the question, I don't know if you had anyone ask you this question. He's jogging through a neighborhood, and someone asked me, well, did he live in the neighborhood? And this is one of my white brothers and sisters. It was like, did he live in the neighborhood? Well, what did he have on? And I was dumbfounded. But I found myself trying to explain. That's when I realized I was like, you've got to wake up. So did you have an experience like that? Even with George Floyd, I've had people ask, well, why are you making him a hero? Can you speak to your experience with people that I think sometimes they're wanting to help, but still caught in the old paradigm that there has to be some type of justification?
Yeah, can I,
I feel
let
as
me answer
though people
part of
don't
that.
do a good job at checking their biases and their judgments. And I feel like we also haven't had experience enough with, or not us, but people in general sometimes don't have enough experience with those outside of their circle.
Yes.
So then you create all of these biases and stereotypes. You don't read to try to get to know other cultures. You don't place yourself in spaces that are out the ordinary. And so you begin to think that what you believe and how you see the world is true. And you think that your perception and your perspective is the only thing that matters. I think white people need to start holding each other accountable. If you're somewhere and you hear something ignorant from one of your white friends, you need to speak up and you need to check them. Just like if I'm in a room and I hear one of my friends say something crazy about somebody gay or somebody trans, I'm checking them at the front door because I don't want to be associated with that. And I don't want to be the one where if something gets out, they say, well, Alicia, you stood there when they said that and you didn't say nothing. And I'm gay and I'm trans and we're supposed to be cool. So if I can do that for a subset group of people, why can't white people do that same thing amongst themselves in groups? You know, you have these police officers, they don't hold each other accountable. I have black friends who are police officers and they're blue before they're black.
Yes.
And there are situations that happen that they have the power to address and they won't. And I just think we need to hold each other more accountable in our social circles. And that goes for white folks as well as police officers.
Beautiful. Bonnie?
Yeah, I don't think we can ever, I think we look at the larger picture that, and continue to look at the larger picture that uh, police shootings is just one symptom of this larger illness. And this larger illness is based in implicit bias, racism that's been built into the country. Look at the facts uh, that just a little bit more than 60 years ago, a little bit less than 60 years ago, legislatively, black people were given the right to vote.
Right.
So only 60 or 50 something years of this country has it been legal for you, and by the way, people are trying to take that vote away. Has it been mandated that black people or people could have the right to vote? So the majority of the time, that has not happened. So if you look at what's been ingrained into our institutions, what's been ingrained in our laws, what's been ingrained in the psychology of white privilege, uh, that white people all benefit from, and some of them are now becoming aware of it. Um, uh, Many of them have not been aware, right? If you look at all those things, that's what makes this issue of racism so big, and it can't be legislated. It's got to be, that's part of the process. But
Yes.
the biggest process part of it is that it's got to be a spiritual change in the lives of people to validate and feel that no matter who you are, we are all equal, and that there's one humanity, there's one kind, and that we're all connected together. That has to be the driving force to help make this part of this change. We can protest and we can do all those other things. That's part of the process. But until we deal with the lack of spiritual ramifications that creates racism, it won't change. So,
I, I love it. I hear you loud and clear, and I definitely believe this is a spiritual call for all the soldiers that have been praying, meditating. We've been asking and wanting this change, and it's here. The doorway is here. There is definitely a connection. I mean, the pandemic, if it hasn't shown people that we're all connected, it's all over the world. I don't know how you can try to separate. Doesn't matter how much money you have, what your education is, it's everywhere, and it can affect anyone. But there are those that think it's a conspiracy, that there is no COVID.
right.
There's
Can I say
that.
one more thing?
Yes.
The
Speak
other
on
part
it,
of
brother.
this
Speak
is
on it.
that the United States is the most diverse, it's the microcosm of all the world's cultures, people, ethnicities, all of that. And that's why it's so important for the United States to be a beacon and to address this issue of racism, because the rest of the world followed. If we don't address it, if we don't change it, the rest of the world will fall apart. It's here in the United States for us to handle, and for us to be an example of it. And the fact is that most people in the United States have had their head in the sand
Yes.
because they said, "Oh, well, you had a black president. Oh, you got the right to vote. Everything's equal." Well, it's not equal, because all the stuff that's built, the foundation is raggedy. The foundation that this country was built on is raggedy. And
Yes.
until we address and fix that foundation, everything's going to fall apart. So,
Yep. You know, there's a 21-day anti-racist challenge.
yeah.
And you're familiar with that. And one of the speakers said something, and I don't want to misquote, and I don't remember who it was, so I'm stealing somebody's stuff, but it was so profound. What she said was, when you understand that implicit racism, implicit bias, systemic racism is so deeply entrenched in the foundation of this country and everything that we touch, you will know that the proper question to ask is not, hey, is racism at play here? The question to ask yourself is, how is racism at play here? And I'm in healthcare,
Right.
so that's the area that we were looking at. But when you change the way that you look at the world, and you don't waste time wondering if it's an imperfect situation and an implicitly biased, racist foundation, raggedy foundation, right? Then we can just jump to, well, hey, it is what it is, right?
Right,
That's one of the
right.
most beautiful things about Black folks, is that culturally we speak truth and we speak from the heart. We are not a people, a culture that holds back. We are honest. Not that other cultures aren't honest, but we don't get held back by polite inhibitions and garbage and filters. We're pretty straightforward, and that's why a lot of times we're perceived as being too direct or difficult or whatever, all these things that we deal with, right?
Right.
It is what it is. The beautiful
Too
part is that we
loud.
say it how it is. We're too loud, too garish, too opinionated,
Yes.
right? Hey, the foundation's raggedy.
Yes, it
We need to
is.
rebuild her with the understanding that this that it's that racism is systemic, and where is it at play, and then address it there.
I love it. You guys are hitting it out of the park. You're saying some of the things and really expressing the realness. I remember watching a bit of a video, and I think it was Jane Goodall. It was a white audience, and she said, "I want to ask everyone here who would like to be black," and no one raised their hands. Not a one. Not
Who
even
wants a black butt?
right?
Who wants to dance to black music?
Who
wants a
some
black
full
man?
lips? But who
I would
wants
have raised
to?
my hand for that one.
You say what?
Okay.
I would have raised my hand for that one. She said, "Who wants a black man?"
Me too.
And I thought it was so beautiful because she said, "Well, don't tell me you don't know, because not one
Right.
of you want to live it." I was like, "Whoa."
That's powerful.
That was. It was really powerful. And everyone sitting around, the old cliche, "Oh, I have a black friend," or "my husband is black," or it's like, what about the rest of the black folks? How do you feel about them?
Right.
So I want to ask you to take a moment and think. I want you to share an experience of racism that touched you in a way that changed you. And if we had, we can't play it because they'll ding the video, but ding, ding, ding. I can do ding, ding, ding.
I got two very specific ones.
Okay, come on with it. Bonnie.
And my first experiences with trying to figure out racism was when I was in first grade, and my family was moving from St. Louis, Missouri to Michigan. And this is black on black racism of some sort, right?
Yes.
And then I'll take another quick story. So the teacher was a black teacher, inner city, and everybody in the classroom was black. And the teacher said, "Bonnie Billups, what's your birthday?" I'm a little kid. I don't know my birthday. I said Monday or something, and she said, "You stupid little fool." She actually said something else. She said, "You stupid little fool, you gonna go up there to Michigan with all those white folks and show how stupid you are." I'll never forget that in first grade, right? And so that was my first thing of, well, what's this deal with black and white and what's this? So I internalized this and made sure that I said, no, I'm not dumb. I'm gonna show everybody that I'm smart. But the first real racism that I experienced, I was with a group called Operation Education. It was 50 of us, 49 of us on a big Greyhound bus in 1973, going across the country to the Grand Canyon and back, from Ann Arbor, Michigan to the Grand Canyon, right? And so a couple of the kids had asthma, and the bus had set off their asthma. And so the directors said, well, we got to stay in a hotel for the night to give them a place to be in the air and get their breathing right. Okay, so we pulled up to the first hotel, Amarillo, Texas. Never forget it. We pull up to the first hotel. The chaperones go in, who are black women. They go in. It says no vacancy. They said, hey, we need to get 4 rooms for the night. And the guy said, we don't have any rooms. And they said, well, your sign says no vacancy. Oh, that's a mistake. We don't have any rooms. Okay.
The sign says
they jump back in the bus.
The sign says
Yeah,
vacancy.
they jump back in. It said vacancy, right? But he said, oh, it should say no vacancy. Okay. So they jump back in the bus. There's a whole string of hotels down this highway. It's sort of like, a service drive over the highway. So we go to the next hotel, and they go in. It said vacancies. They go in. People say the same thing. Oh, we have no vacancies. What? So they get back in the bus, and we actually start seeing the signs down the highway changing from vacancy to no vacancy. We actually start seeing it. Now, our bus driver was white, a white guy. He was livid. He After we went to three more hotels, he was livid. Uh, and so we said, well, forget it, Dwayne. We can just stay in the bus. We'll figure out something, it'll be okay. He said, no. He went back to the first hotel. He went in and got 4 rooms.
Wow.
Got 4 rooms. So we pulled around back, and like 15 people crowded into each room, people sleeping on beds on the floor. It was crazy, right? And so that morning, as the manager is walking around telling the cleaning staff what to do, all of a sudden, all these little black kids come running out these hotel rooms, getting on this bus, and he goes crazy. Because how did he get food if these black kids got in, And Dwayne Wilmer, of course, cussed him out and said some choice words. But that was one of my first experiences at 13 years of age, at 12 years of age, understanding racism in that kind of a real way.
Wow. Thank you.
Wow.
Thank you. Ladies, who's next?
I guess I'll go. So my memory is horrible, and honestly, I think it's a defense mechanism that I've created because there's a lot of stuff that people will tell me that has happened in the past, and I'll be like, I do not have no idea what you're talking about. Seriously, I think I have created. It has to be something there where it's a defense mechanism where I don't remember really traumatic stuff, but I can say I remember having this teacher in the 3rd grade. And I was living with my grandparents and just dealing with behavior issues because of that situation. Then I had psoriasis all over my body, and she was just a nasty, mean teacher. And I remember being the only black person in the class, and it was like she would call me out in front of everybody else. She tried to label me with learning disabilities and disorders. And even now, I volunteer for an organization called Project Grand, and these kids are being raised by their grandparents. I have a passion for that. And they say that these kids have learning disabilities. And in my opinion, a lot of these kids don't necessarily have learning disabilities. They just being misunderstood.
Yes.
And I think about myself being in 3rd grade in Miss Doe's class and how my grandmother had to advocate for me so she wouldn't label me. Because once you get that label, that's it. And I was the only black girl in that classroom. So I remember situations dealing with that. And at that age, you're not really aware of racism. So it's like, was she doing that because I was just being hard-headed, or did she do that because I was black? Just reflecting back on that. I remember being in college and going to Huntsville with one of my friends for Thanksgiving in Alabama, and she said like there's certain areas that we don't go to. And this was in 2006, 2007. So, that for me, that racism wasn't occurring as much because I'm from Michigan, so it's a little bit different from the South. I would say that white people in the South are very outward with their racism, and white people up north know how to kind of hide it a little bit. They're not as direct with it. So to hear that it's certain places you don't go to in Huntsville, Alabama, my mind was blown. I'm like, what? And then I would say this one other time, I was in college, I was walking into Walmart, and this white man was with his family, and he was using the N word like it was just another word. And in that moment, I questioned whether or not I should say something to him, because I like to make people feel uncomfortable when they do stuff and think ain't nobody gonna say nothing, even though that's got me in trouble, but that's another show.
That's all right.
Anyway, almost got me into some altercations.
Altercations. Oh, you
But in
talking
the
about
back of my mind, I knew that if I challenged this white man and something happens, if stuff blows up, that I'm gonna get it before he does it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it made me afraid to speak out and say that what you're saying and what you're doing is wrong.
Beautiful. Thank you. Terry?
Yeah. Gosh, I mean, I feel like I don't even remember the first experience. I grew up sort of different. I'm biracial, and I grew up in the town that my mother and my mother's family was from. And my mom is the non-black side of my DNA. And so I was the only black person in that town. And you
Wow,
imagine
the
the first
only?
black person, the only one. And the first black person they ever saw was my dad when my mom went off to grad school and came back with this big old black man. They didn't appreciate that. And then, they got separated. And so I was raised by my grandmother. And
Now, your
I didn't
grandmother
even
on
know I
your
was black
father's
till
side or your mother's side?
on my mother's side.
Okay.
So I experienced, remember that old term reverse racism?
Yes.
I not a thing, but I've experienced both sides where I was never quite black enough and then I was too black, you know? And so the racism for being black, I think I started to acknowledge or notice it once I realized I was black. And that's when I was about in third grade. Somebody said, look at your arm. Because they kept calling me, the N word.
Oh.
And I spoke Spanish, so I thought they were just saying negra wrong. Wow. And so, like, I remember, coming home and saying, eeny, meeny, miny, mo, catch an N word by the toe. I thought that's how you said it. And my mom slapped me. And she told me, don't you ever say that word. People will use that word to degrade you and make you feel bad. You are not that word. And I was so confused because I didn't feel degraded at all. It's just what you do when you're picking out who goes first.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until those conversations started coming out. And then I realized that the bullies that were bullying me and screaming these words at me that I had not recognized were bullying me, not just because they didn't like me, they were bullying me because of my skin color.
Yeah.
The bus driver that wouldn't let me get off the bus at my friend's house and made me drive all the way up the canyon and back getting yelled at, and would make me sit in the back of the bus and get yelled at by these boys in high school until, I would be crying. I couldn't catch my breath. And they would follow me off the bus and told me, don't tell your grandma, don't tell your mom. So I never did. And I didn't realize that was because I was black. I just thought they were mean. I just thought they didn't like me. So I didn't identify that as racism. But when I go back and I think I was, in second grade getting called, big black gorilla, a dirty monkey, I just didn't, and not having black family around me to say, that's racist.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, we're not going to put up with that. It was just what they called me. And so then as I got older and I would see things, I was hyper vigilant. And I remember I used to have to sit out in the hallway because my mind's always been very quick as a kid. So I'd get through the homework, the schoolwork, the classwork. And then I would help somebody. And they would, and they would, accuse me of cheating. But no, I was just helping. They looked, lost. Oh, I think I was ADD before ADD was a thing. And, nobody thought to give me coloring books,
Right.
or paper to draw on. I would do homework, extra credit, and then get in trouble and be in the hallway. And it was every day.
Wow.
So pretty soon they just moved my desk out into the dark hallway.
Oh.
And, I just got used to that. I normalized that. But the first time I got angry because of racism, where I was like, I'm not going to take it anymore, was when I was in the 5th grade and they took the entire school out into the blacktop. And there were 4 kids of color. There was myself, a little girl in kindergarten. There was Brian Sayo, who was Native American. He was in my grade, and his little sister, Debbie, who was in 3rd grade. And they pulled us all up to the front in front of the whole school, made an announcement that somebody had stolen things out of one of the classrooms. And then they marched us down there, a kindergartner, a third grader, and 2 fifth graders.
Wow.
And they made us search our desks, show them our desks, our book bags, and our person. And by the time they got to me, I was angry because I knew that this was wrong. I finally got it, And so I told them that I was going to tell my mom, and I asked them why they only took the Indians and the black kids. And they told me to shut up. And so I took it and then told my mom. And of course, my mom came in and, she yelled at the principal or whatever. But that was the first of many, many times. I felt like a consummate failure as a parent, seeing overt racism affect my children as they were growing up in the school system. I thought if I kept them in good schools and good neighborhoods, they wouldn't have to worry about stuff like that. And I was wrong. It was a constant struggle. Constant. I feel bad for kids who don't have advocates. I had my grandmother who, even though she didn't know exactly what was happening, she knew I was getting picked on, and she would empower me in the beginning of the day and send me out there, with my armor on. I had my mother who would go to the school and yell at people. But if you're so beaten down by racism and oppression that you don't even think you have a right to hold your head up, and then you have children, and you send those babies out into the school system and they are just targets, you wonder why things are the way that they are. I don't know. That's not what you asked me, but that's my first major experience.
What I asked you. That's beautiful. I want to thank you all for sharing your stories. I think it's a way of healing, to speak it out loud, to recognize that you were hurt, you were harmed. I remember I was probably about 12, and my mother had enrolled me in the Barbizon School of Modeling. And you go every week, and I was one of 2 black kids in the class. And every week, the woman, instead of calling me Gino, she would call me Gino, Giggy, nappy head, always anything outside of my name. And I never said anything to my mother. It didn't feel good, but like you, Terry, I let it go. I didn't know if it was because I didn't put my makeup on right, or I didn't do the turn point right, or whatever. And so it comes for the fashion show day. And the first time I walked down the runway, she says, "Here's our little guinea, Let's give some love for Guinea." Now, dear, you don't know my mama, and but
I know your mama.
Woo!
I saw a rage that went through my mother that literally, it scared me, because I thought, oh, this woman gonna be in trouble. She gonna be in trouble. And as I turned to come back down, my mother had made it up on top of the stage. And she told me, "You turn around." She said, "My daughter's name is Gino." And she told me I was running the school of Barbizon. She said some nasty words. If you ever call my daughter a guinea pig, and she put the remaining on it, she said, I will slap the taste out of your mouth. And so when we finished, my mother was upset with me because she said, how long has this been going on? And I was like, well, every class, Mama. She said, do you realize? So we had that conversation, and I thought, well, it doesn't mean that much. I know I'm not that. She said, but if you let people call you that, after a while, you'll begin to not only respond, but to expect that. And so, with all of these different stories, and looking at the whole picture of racism, it's understandable how we as Black people have forgotten who we are, who the kings and queens that we are, because we have been beaten down and crushed down. To hear a story of a little boy in a park playing with a gun, and a white woman called and said, hey, there's a kid in the park with a gun, and the police officer comes in formation and shoots and kills. That I feel as though when this new awakening, I realized that I had really fallen asleep, that I had started expecting, well, it's what it is. And, we got to do better. We have to do better. This is a thing that's going to take everyone. In Michigan, I know you guys just had the young girl that was 15 years old that they sent to jail for not doing her homework.
What?
Yeah. Yeah. In the middle of a pandemic, when nobody's doing their homework,
Yeah.
the
Where
judge
everybody's
to go
stressed,
to juvenile.
including kids, and trying to readjust and sit in front of a computer all day and with abusive parents. Some of them not eating because the only source of food they get is when they go to school.
Yes.
I mean, come on.
Yes.
Are you kidding me?
No. 15 years old.
Yeah, she was sentenced to go to be put in juvenile because of that. But there was an uproar, of course, and I mean, those are the things that people learn about implicit bias in all kind of ways in the judicial system and laws. I mean, if we look at the amount of how Black people are sentenced in this country versus how white people are sentenced, there was just a large report done in my community where I live of our justice system in this county, which shows disproportionately that people of color, African Americans, get stiffer sentences, get longer probation periods, get more fines than white folks who are charged with the same exact thing.
Yes.
They get less, and some of them get no probation and get the stuff thrown out. So that's the part of this raggedy foundation that needs to be addressed. The police shootings is one part of it,
Yeah.
but the whole foundation, we won't do anything. Let's not lose focus that we can just say, okay, let's stop police shootings. That's a start. The whole foundation needs to be addressed. And that's the responsibility of Black folks, but of white folks, especially white allies,
Yes.
to take ownership of their privilege and to help fix these things and straighten up spiritually, economically, and making sure that things are equitable, making sure that if it means that you have to sacrifice a little bit for the greater good of all humanity, then that's what we got to do. And that's what white folks are going to have to do.
I think
Because Black folks did it for years.
They what?
Black folks did it for years with slavery.
Yes.
We sacrificed.
Yes.
Come on.
Go ahead, Alicia.
So I have a few things to that point. I had this argument on Facebook about what can we do about the biases when it comes to criminal justice. I don't know if this would work, but why can't we have cases where you have all the evidence, you have the lawyers, you have the jury. The only difference is you don't know the person's name and you never see them. You call them by a number. You don't even say it's Raekwon, because they say Raekwon Thomas, you already know that the brother is black. You know, they don't even get a
Shaniqua
name.
is a dead giveaway.
Right. That's gonna be a dead giveaway. Raekwon Thomas, that jury already gonna have their biases, and that's even a different conversation with names and the biases that come with that.
Yes.
But I really feel
sure.
like they can run a court case exactly how they do it, and that's the key component. You just don't see the person, and I guarantee the sentences will begin to change, whether they will increase for white people or they will start to decrease for black people. You will see a difference. I guarantee that.
Oh,
Well,
absolutely.
It's a powerful new way of looking, because definitely, as Bonnie has said, this is a complete overall, the whole foundation, as y'all have said, that's raggedy, that has to come down, and we have to create a new foundation. This isn't, we can't patch up. For me, we can't patch up, because the foundation, it is like termites. It has been eaten away. It's just rotten at the core. And so if you're building a house, you don't try to patch that up. You tear that down and you start from fresh. And so we're going to have to start opening up our minds and our conversation to new ways that we've never tried before, because the old ways are so deeply rooted in the systemic system that the only thing that's going to give birth to is more of that. And I think also for our white brothers and sisters, don't be afraid. These uncomfortable conversations, we have to have them. They have to be said. And for our black brothers and sisters and all people of color, we have to be able to have conversations with people when they ask questions. You know, that politically correct thing, I think it put people in a box where you are afraid to ask a question. You're wrong if you ask, you don't ask the right way. This is an opportunity for us and for all of us to just be open and honest with each other. The problems that are happening is going to take all of us. We can't do this thing alone. And so with that, I love you. This has been a really powerful panel, and I love the honesty that you've shared with everybody. I think I'm going to keep the raggedy foundation. The raggedy foundation. Our time is almost up. So in closing, I'd like to know if there's anything that you personally want to share, anything that you want to get off your chest, anything that you want to say.
I just had a thought as you were talking, and I think sometimes I may have a different view on segregation and integration.
Okay.
And I feel like it would not have been so bad if we were segregated. The issue was we got the end of the stick. So it's like we're separate, but we weren't equal. So, you know, had we been equal, would it be a different world? And, and I think about how I feel like stuff that happens in America today are the same. It's just done in a different way, right?
Yes.
So we may not necessarily have segregation on paper anymore, but I can go to neighborhoods with school districts where those kids don't have books that are updated. They don't have laptops. They don't have pens and books and papers. It's not segregation, but you already know what it is.
Absolutely.
Because as soon as you pull your child out of that school district to put them in a better school district, now you're arrested and you're facing jail time. So I really feel like a lot of things have not changed. They are just being done in a different way. So that's just a thought that I had as you were talking.
Well, just to tag on to that, before segregation, years ago, they talk about black people were very prominent. We had banks,
right,
and we had our own property and own grocery stores and our
yep,
own community. We had our own thing that was happening. And the system came in and was like, no, tore it down.
Yep.
So yeah, I hear you.
I'd like to say in closing that, America is this phenomenal, amazing experiment, right?
Right.
And when you are conducting an experiment and things are not working out, you shift. We can't just not do it anymore. We also can't just continue to do it wrong. We need to shift and learn from the mistakes of our past. We have to uncover the termites and turn on the lights and let the cockroaches run, right? And we need to gut it and rebuild it. And there are people who are trying to do that. I work with wonderful people. I'm a part of an anti-racism task force at work. And there are people who are very honestly trying very hard to educate themselves and be really aware of their privilege and figure out how to navigate with this new knowledge as medical professionals who are actually providers who are now thinking, oh my God, mind blown. Have I been taking care of patients correctly? Because now I find out that even the lab results are skewed based on color,
Yep.
right?
Wow.
And so, and it's not based on fact, it's based on racists who write studies and get published, and then it becomes pseudo fact.
Yep.
And that's a whole other area that we have to figure out, And so I want to honor that there are people who are doing the work. I have wonderful friends who are reading books and participating in things, and they're protesting, and I have very few, but some family who are hitting those streets, and they're tearing down this raggedy foundation from another side.
Yes.
And I respect and I honor that because they get a pass because they don't look like me. And so they can do that. I want to honor my mom, who, even though she raised a Black child, it took her a while to realize why all lives matter is garbage and you need to stop saying it. Even though she didn't say it, she didn't understand why it hurt me so much. And so she educated herself. Because just because you had a Black husband and you made a Black baby doesn't mean you know.
Right.
And so I want to honor the people who are doing the work, but remind you that it's a lifetime of work. It's not a sprint, and it's tiresome. It's exhausting. We are tired. Tag. You are it. Do something with it. That's it.
Beautiful, beautiful. Bonnie, and I did forget, before you say anything, Bonnie, I'm going to ask back here, do we have anything on the chat? Okay, so Bonnie, go ahead.
Yeah, I think we have to, as a country, white folks have to acknowledge the racist history of this country and how it was started. And I read something recently about All Lives Matter, where it says we're still trying to define all, because when All Men Was Created Equal was written, it did include Black people. And when so any of the things that are mentioned in the Declaration of Independence or in the Bill of Rights at the beginning that said all, they weren't including Black folks as all. So that's why all has to be defined in the country still. But I think, what I hear from people a lot of times, oh, just forget about slavery. That was so long ago, And so I have a great friend who's Jewish, of the Jewish faith, and she said that to me one day. And I said, but you don't want me to forget the Holocaust. You want me to forget slavery, but every mention that you can, you tell me about the Holocaust. How is that? That's your privilege that you don't understand.
Right.
That affects me. And so this country has to reconcile its history of racism and of prejudice that's ingrained, that's inwoven in the thread of this country to change it. And white folks cannot be afraid of us fixing this raggedy foundation, right? I think part of that is we're gonna lose power, we're gonna lose
Right.
whatever, and what's gonna happen to me? The foundation will be better for all of us if we go in there and we all fix it together. But if we don't fix it, it's gonna fall apart. This cannot be sustained. Where this country is right now and where it's headed cannot be sustained. It won't be sustaining because there's too much pain, there's too much poverty, there's too much inequity that happens, and that can't last forever. And so we all have an obligation to change it. We all have an obligation to fix this raggedy foundation. So.
Fantastic. Well, I want to say to each of you first, thank you, thank you, thank you so much for your candor. And Terry, being in both worlds, and I went to school with, I'll never forget, Darlene Chu. Her mom was Asian, no, her mom was white and her father was black. And so she was met with that challenge every day that she wasn't black enough. And so she would go out of her way because that was her neighborhood. So that's a whole nother thing of racism that all of us have to understand, that this is a divine person. When we can start to let the label of a color not cause us to create the character of a person, we can then start to begin the beauty that's in each of us. And so thank you for sharing so candidly. Bonnie, Alicia, thank you so much for being here. I just have to share that Bonnie is my cousin, and so I'm so not used to calling him Bonnie. I think I've done really great.
You did real good.
Dormini's giving me a thumb up. I normally call him Bun, so
Hey, now.
that's my Bun. I thank you all for being here and for your love, and for everyone that joins us tonight, and that those that we'll see in the future. Understand, Kitchen Conversations is this opportunity for us to just be as candid as possible. And if it gets your goat, if it brings you to tears, if it makes you angry, then that means that there is motion, there are things that are happening, and that you're thinking things in a different way. And know that each of us, we're sending love to all of the universe, but we must be able to share our pain, to share our experience, and to share what angers us, so that we can move to ourselves out of this old way, this old cobweb of life that has been here, because there's a greatness for each and every one of us. Kitchen Conversations is very happy to have you. We are here every first and third Wednesday. So next week won't be a Kitchen Conversations, it will be an Awakening Wednesday. And I'm not sure who our facilitator will be, but it'll be something magnificent. For each of you and all that you do, I can bless you with the divineness that you are, and know that you are a gift to this world. Because without you, we wouldn't be able to do this thing right now. So I thank you so much for being here. Peace and blessings. It is now our conscious giving time. Woo woo! Just giving time. So we have started this wonderful new opportunity, Pass the Basket. Pass the Basket is an opportunity that you can just send a text, and you can give to Universal Spirit Center $5, $10, $20, $30 more. Because we are a thriving community, and we are here doing the work. Our feet are on the ground, and we're doing the work. The Racial Equality Project is in co-hosting with Kitchen Conversations. We have different actions that take place every week that you can participate in. So I don't know, I think my mic might have been off at the beginning. So let me just repeat that this is our conscious giving time. Yeah, 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 yeah. And we are doing Pass the Basket. Pass the Basket is an opportunity to text to this number. You can drop a 5 or a 10 or a 20 or a dollar or two. Drop whatever feels comfortable for you. We are very grateful and thankful for everyone in our community, for the work that's being done, for the gifts that you constantly give, for the awareness of life that you are participating in, and for saying yes. Saying yes to your life and to who and what you are. We're very grateful. So, pass the basket. I was supposed to have my phone next to me so I could do pass the basket, but I'll do it when I get off. I will. Let me share with you some of the announcements that we have going on. Every night we have an amazing meditation at 7 o'clock. It's a way to keep you grounded and to keep you connected into everything that Universal Spirit Center is doing. We also have some wonderful classes that are coming up. I think, Dermini, you have the presence practice that'll be coming up soon. So please be on the lookout for that. Reverend Kevin, I believe he's offering a foundation class. That's a powerful class. And he's offering it two ways. You can be there physically live outside in the backyard where there's plenty of room, and also via Zoom. Foundations is a wonderful way as we are going through this divine time now to have your spiritual warrior inside and to keep you grounded. So go on to universalspiritcenter.org. Check out all of the different things that we are happening. Our racial equality project, we're doing a lot of amazing things. I know we just had last week, it was an action for taking action for Jacob Blake. There was, and I think you can still do it. I'm sure it's still there on the webpage. So when you go to Universal Spirit Center, just look for REP and click on there. You will see just a beautiful thing of beautiful processes and ways that you can be active in Black Lives Matter, in expanding and flipping this thing, just busting open the raggedy foundation. I love that. Getting the termites out. So we're at this space now that we understand that without the love, without the awareness, without the times to be able to come together and talk and say what we feel, without action, let's not forget the action, that none of us are free, that we find ourselves in this country right now all held captive by racism. We are all imprisoned by racism. And so we must continue on. We must thrive. We must keep putting each step forward. Because until everyone is equal, no one truly is. None of us are free. 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 One of us in chains. None of us are free. Well, look around at the world and you'll see what I speak, that this Pain inside is killing everybody. We've got to give to each other. Show our brothers and sisters that we care. Let's send this message out loud and clear, 'cause none of us are free. None of us are free. None of us are free. If one of us in chains, none of us are free. None of us are free. None of us, none of us are free. If one of us is in chains, don't you know we are not free? I thank you so much. I'll see you next week. Peace.